I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender season 1 of the original show. I'd watched the first season of the live action and got a member request from Zeyga to watch the first season of the original because I wasn't a huge fan of the live action. So the member request that I have set up right now, there's just one tier. You can become a member and ask me to review a show or movie per month. For the show, it's limited to one season. I'm trying to keep it around an anime core length. Obviously, I can't commit to something like Supernatural. So this was Zeyga's request.
Arigato.
This one is strictly for my Zeygas. It's a Tupac album reference if you're not a boomer and white trash. Avatar the original was way better than the live action. And I'm not surprised because people were super excited about the live action. That's why it got made in the first place. But this did confirm a lot of what I suspected. And I think it was just ineptitude for the people who made the live action. The live action didn't seem to me like an insult to the fans, like many other series or adaptations or remakes or whatever. To me, this one seemed like someone who likes the original, but kind of only understood it on a surface level. And it also seemed incompetent to me just from the decisions they made to go from animation to live action. Something that I noticed watching the original was that the voice acting I didn't think was particularly good or bad. It was just there. But I felt like the kid in the animation talked just like the kid in the live action.
Great! I am the Avatar. My name is Aang, and I'm here to visit the Shrine of Avatar Roku. You see, I'm the Avatar.
But I think it hurts the live action because it just doesn't translate when you do dialogue that way. One of the things that I think really helps the animation is you can do these really exaggerated faces and expressions. And live action, obviously, is just a person. They counted the flat delivery from the animated show, but then just put it on a person, so you end up with kind of what seems like flat, boring characters. I was wondering why I thought the acting was not very good in the live action. Because I said in that one, I didn't believe that it was likely that every single actor on the show was a bad actor. And watching the animated version kind of confirmed that for me. Because the way they read their lines in the animation sounds just like the live action. But that's one of those places they should have took a little bit of liberty and had them emphasize the way that you do in a normal show or movie. I think something else that really hurt going from animation to live action is that they went from the 20-minute episodes to 8 roughly hour-long episodes. Because what they did was they cut out a bunch of the stories, like a little random kind of fun side quest where Aang still learns lessons and you still get character stuff. And they stretched a few of them out, so then it kind of feels like a slog. So for example, the King of Omashu episode where he meets his old friend, that episode in the show is one episode, 20 minutes, boom. They stretched that out for a whole episode in the live action. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. And I think what they don't realize when they did that is when you have 20 episodes, and each episode is its own little mini story, even if not every story is crazy dense or important to the plot, you're still getting time with all of your main characters. So when you do that in live action, even though you spent the same amount of screen time with them, you haven't fit as many adventures in with them or stories in with them. So you don't feel nearly as connected, unless it's really well written, obviously. But they didn't really create much new stuff from what I remember. They mainly just elongated everything and then changed things. My guess would be mostly for the worse. Another mistake that I thought they made that I really don't understand is why they showed the Netflix live action version chronologically. It's way more interesting when you start off, Aang is in the iceberg, you don't know what's happening, and then you find out with him what's happening. Very basic storytelling tool, but it's very effective. Something else the animated version does way more is lean into the Korra Aang romance or feelings or whatever you want to call it. Like they routinely get jealous of other people. Aang wants attention all the time from her.
How do I look?
She gets frustrated with him. And even the one episode where she kind of puts him in the friend zone, she seems to realize by the end of it that she misjudged. Like all these things that I'm talking about just strip away character. And I think that's where the live action really falls flat. You know, you take away essentially time and stories with them. You take away feelings between them. You kind of flatten out their emotions so you get less attached to them. You combine all those things, you end up with just kind of a dull, detached story. And that's how I felt watching the live action. I mean, I get that they had to cut some stuff because you don't want to spend 20 minutes with him messing with a giant fish. But that episode was still important for him maturing. And there's ways to save money on CG and stuff. I think this show would have been way better served doing maybe 10 to 12, like 25, 30-minute episodes. Maybe you combine a couple of the little side stories for fun into one episode. if you can make sense of them that way. You know, you don't want to obliterate the story. You want to keep it intact. But I'm sure there's a way you could combine some of those little side stories and get all your little lessons in there. I mean, the way that the lessons are done in the show, it's very kid friendly, obviously. It's very direct. And I think the live action just kind of whiffed on it. Like, watching the animated version has actually lowered my opinion of the live action. So yeah, comparatively, the live action is just far inferior. I don't even think it's close, actually. And as a show overall, I would say the animated version is good. There's definitely some things that I think it suffers for, maybe because the target demographic is kids. The biggest one to me being that, you know, they want the Fire Nation around all the time, but they can't have Aang lose or get caught, really. So you have him get caught each episode and escape, or you have Zuko see him, then he escapes. And at some point, it makes your villain seem incompetent. Like, you have an entire nation that's supposed to be the greatest threat to everyone, the most powerful nation dominating the last century, and they can't catch one boy. And I know he's the Avatar and he's powerful and whatever, but at this point in the story, he's just kind of like a doped up airbender and a mid waterbender. And he's just escaping over and over and over. That would be the biggest thing for me. Obviously, you have some dialogue that's very on the nose. The exposition's really blunt. You know, they outright say what the lesson is each episode. That's all kid stuff you can kind of overlook.
But they respected each other's differences enough to share the same playing field.
I suppose it's time we forget the past.
And look to the future.
I still think the world's pretty cool. I like the characters. Zuko is still the best character to me. I like his whole backstory and his relationship with Iroh. I thought Aang, Katara, and Sokka were all very much improved in the animated version. I mean, Sokka's kind of the butt of the jokes, but he's still right like a decent amount of the time when he's like, you guys need to knock that kid shit off. And Aang is a good character. I mean, he messes up a lot. Seemingly almost every episode, he's the one who's learning a lesson. There's some randoms in there where he's teaching a lesson, like the one where the two families are divided and he makes up a story. But for the most part, he's screwing up and having to take accountability for his mistakes, which is good. I think it's good to see for a kid's show. I think it's just good in general. One thing I thought was a huge difference, and this is just a purely tone thing, is to me the live action felt like three kids trying to be adults, and the animation felt like three kids with adult burdens placed on them. They all feel very childlike to me. And I know that's something that sounds really stupid.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
But to me, there's a big difference. And I guess if you want a comparison, I would compare it to like Kenobi, where Leia at that point is 10 years old, but she speaks like a genius adult.
You think being like him will make people frightened of you, but really, you're the one who's scared.
As opposed to this, where they're like, Aang, you need to save the world. And he's like, yeah, but can I play a little bit first? You know, it's one of those things where you're kind of frustrated because it's a kid and you're like, hey, bitch, this is important. But you're also like, oh, he's a kid. He should behave like a child does. And to me, that's one of the biggest differences tonally between the live action and original. The other obvious one being just how much fun it seems like they're all having on their little journey. In the animation, as opposed to how kind of serious and almost dour the tone is in the live action. So yeah, I don't think I have too much more to say. It was a good recommendation from Zeyga. And now I have to decide if I want to continue on or wait for the live action season 2 to come out and then watch them side by side. If anyone else really has something they want me to review, just become a member and put a comment. And as long as I acknowledge it, you'll know that I've seen it. But obviously I don't expect anybody to pay me. Nobody owes me any fucking money or time. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there for this one. I can see why the show is so nostalgic for people and the animated product was far superior. So if you're here, comment, let me know what you think. I try to respond to all the comments that aren't just insults. And like and subscribe and all that. Thanks. See ya.